Welcome back to another edition of Evolution. We have covered the evolution of the FIFA franchise in the past. Go check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. We are gonna be diving a little more in depth today, seeing how the penalty shootout experience has changed throughout the years. As always, we highly appreciate your likes and comments. Hope you enjoy this trip in time. Let's begin with the evolution of penalties in FIFA games from 1994 to 2022. Although this is not the first game in the FIFA franchise, it's actually the second installment. It's the first game to include penalty shootouts to resolve games. The previous game, FIFA 94, had instead, next goal wins at the end of extra time. This is what penalties looked in FIFA 96. It was the first in the series to feature real-time 3D graphics, heavily improving the penalty shootouts. The game was praised for the realism and AI behavior. Moving on to FIFA 97. Unlike the previous game, as opposed to the 2D sprites used in FIFA 96, FIFA 97 features polygonal players. Also, penalties were becoming more and more realistic. FIFA 98, released as FIFA Road to World Cup 98, included all national teams that took part in the World Cup qualifiers. Players have individual faces for the first time. This without a doubt made penalties much more fun. FIFA 99, graphically, it is a major improvement over FIFA 98, with the inclusion of basic facial animations and different players' heights as well. No doubt with the graphics improvement, penalties became much more beautiful aesthetically. FIFA 2000 was met with positive reception. Although there are not too many improvements from the previous year, it's always nice a refreshment of players' face. Penalties were pretty much identical to last year. Now moving to FIFA 2001. The first FIFA installment released in the millennium, it received good reviews, although it didn't sell as good as other installments. This is what penalties looked like back in the year 2000. At this time, Konami's game Pro Evolution Soccer was considered to be the better football game. FIFA was starting to make all the sport video games fans question themselves. This is what shooting penalties in FIFA 2000 to look like. Penalties in FIFA 03 looked like this. The game included greater likenesses of some of the more well-known players, such as Thierry Henry and Ronaldinho, as well as realistic player responses. All these things contributed to this pleasurable penalties experience. Gameplay in FIFA 04 didn't have any drastic improvements, as we always expect from esports. This is what the FIFA 04 penalty shootout looked like. FIFA 2005 penalty shootouts looked exactly like this. The game's biggest difference compared to previous titles was the inclusion of first-touch gameplay, which provided us the ability to perform real-life tricks and passes. Fun fact about FIFA 2005. In most territories, FIFA 2005 was the last game to release on the PlayStation 1 console. It was said that for FIFA 2006, developers rewrote more than half of the programming code. This had a big impact on the penalty system, and you can clearly see it. Esports developed a new sports engine for FIFA 07. This meant not only improved graphics and better controls, but the physics and control were improved, and penalties and gameplay started getting that more realistic look. Moving on to FIFA 08. This is what penalty shootouts looked like. Although there were not many big changes, a change most players noticed was in the speed of the game, which was drastically slowed down. FIFA 09, an all-time fan favorite of the whole saga. It was stated in an interview prior to the release of the game that there were over 250 improvements. Penalties got more aesthetically pleasing than ever before. EA claimed more than 50 key improvements were made to FIFA 10. Realistic behavior was noticeable more and more. You can see it in this penalty shootout footage. Moving on to FIFA 11. Penalties looked like this. Although FIFA 11 got many updates, most of them were around career mode and different aspects of the game that didn't directly influence penalties. David Rutter, the line producer for FIFA 12, said this was a revolutionary year for FIFA, especially in the gameplay department. Penalties looked like this in the installment released in 2011. FIFA 13 penalties looked like this. IGN gave FIFA 13 a 9 out of 10, while others said it was a shamefully cynical update that brings absolutely nothing new to the table. PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions feature a new game engine called the Ignite engine. Both graphical and gameplay advances that were super smooth and were highly applauded in the reviews. There weren't any revolutionary changes to FIFA 15. Regardless, FIFA 15 received positive reviews across all platforms. Moving on to FIFA 16. Many visual updates came along with FIFA 16, such as the Bundesliga full presentation and the use of vanishing spray during certain matches. It was also the first in the FIFA series to include female players. This is the first FIFA game in the series to use the Frostbite game engine, so quite big changes in terms on how the game feels. This is what a penalty shootout looks like. Also, this was the FIFA where they removed the Camp Nou. FIFA 18 didn't include any drastic changes. Although Diego Maradona, the GOAT, was introduced to the game, it still got a spot in Eurogamer's top 50 games of 2017. Moving forward to FIFA 19, gameplay changes include the new active touch system, an overhaul of player control, timed finishing, where the kick button may be pressed a second time to determine the exact moment the ball is actually kicked. FIFA 20 biggest update was Volta Football, a new mode that shares similarities to the former FIFA Street series. FIFA 20 was widely criticized as one of the most frustrating additions, citing the clunky gameplay, dynamic difficulty, and balancing issues. But well, this is what Penalties looked like. FIFA 21 was, I would say, the most controversial game in the franchise. Firstly, due to it being classified as a loot box and a source of online gambling in its Ultimate Team mode. And then as many as 300 football players went out to say that they hadn't allowed EA to use their image. FIFA 22 uses motion capture data collected from 20 real-life players, playing a complete, high-intensity football match in motion capture suits, providing an ultra-realistic gameplay. Fun fact about FIFA 22 is the first game to feature a woman commentator. Well, there you have it. There's the evolution of penalty shootouts in all FIFA games in history. Hope you enjoyed this trip in time. As always, subscribe for more Evolution videos. Click the video on the screen to continue your relaxation.